Hello. Well, Christmas is coming upon us, and Father Christmas has brought us a new COVID strain. And of course, this has been a boon to the French. Ah, zut alors, we can close the borders. And that's it, they're closing the borders. So that means no more camembert, because they've stopped all the trucks going in and out and everything. Now, as I said, I happen to know a lot of people on the Isle of Man, and I do know that they're sealed off, but what they did, but they need the imports. So what they do was this: they would have drivers bring stuff to the boat, and then they'd have other drivers pick the stuff up from the other side. There is a way to do it if you want to seal yourself off. And of course, the French, the first thing they think of doing is closing all the borders. Not because they're worried about the new COVID strain, because it's almost certain to be there as well, but because this is a chance to have a dig at the British. Well, it doesn't matter. We've got Stilton. We don't need Camembert. And there's a funny story about Stilton. Once my husband was visiting some friends of ours in Germany, and he went there on his own. It was just before Christmas, so I sent a pot. Stilton often comes in these pots, and I sent a pot of Stilton with him as a gift for them. And the wife, oh, lovely, she opened the lid. You know, it's like one of those old-fashioned sweet jars, but it was made out of pottery. She opened the lid and looked inside, and of course Stilton is a blue cheese. It has lots of blue veins, and this was a very expensive one, so it was very well veined. And she said, "Oh, it's bad," and she threw the whole thing out. What do you think of that? All right, now this new COVID strain is 70% more infectious, they say. And I would like to know, how do they know it's 70% more infectious? I mean, how do you quantify how infectious something is in percentages? That does seem to me a bit weird, and I'm quite prepared to believe that we have a new COVID strain. And I believe it because of this. When you have a brush fire, if you let the fire just shoot through the brush and burn everything, then the brush fire, anything that comes after it, any more fire, it can't go on anymore because everything's already burnt out. But if you have a brush fire where you manage to direct the fire so that there are bits of brush left hanging around, then if something else comes along behind it, it's got fuel and it carries on going. So you get another wave of fire. And I have an idea. Now, I did say that the lockdown was a good idea to start with the first few weeks, maybe the first month, so that the various health authorities, state-driven or not, had a chance to deal with the situation, to get their act together, to get hospitals in place and various items in place. But after that, they shouldn't do any more lockdown. They should let it rip through the population. I know that would cost lives, especially lives of older people. But my thought was, you can't lock everything down. And my theory, and I'm not a scientific person, so I could be dead wrong, but you can't stop me thinking about these things. If there are any medical people who are watching this, perhaps you can tell me where I'm wrong. My theory is that if COVID had been allowed to fire through the population, then there wouldn't have been a second strain, because there wouldn't have been any more COVID around to mutate. It would have burnt itself out. At least that's my thought. Now, I do know that certain people would have had to have been protected. People like me would have had our lives restricted. We should not have gone out. We might have even died had we caught the infection. But as I said, the society should have spent the money on mechanisms to isolate its older people and let the younger people get it. And I know some younger people would have had a hard time, even life-changing or death-dealing times, but not enough to make a huge difference to the economic health of the country. sure, things would have slowed down a bit. But this would have happened, and it's happening now. So in what way? We're just drawing out now. I want to point something out to all of you younger people who might be watching this, who were insulting older people for the Brexit vote. When the Brexit vote happened, the received wisdom was that it was older people who were responsible for the Brexit vote. So a trope went round on Facebook and Twitter. A lot of younger people were saying how selfish older people were. In fact, the young woman who was sharing my horse did the same thing. And normally I hide names when I'm talking about people, but here I'm going to say her name's Hazel. Because Hazel, if you're watching this, I want you to know that I haven't forgotten your stupidity. I mean, I have to say, Hazel was a PhD student at the time and no dope. And a good rider as well, I have to say. A lot of people, especially in London, share their horses because, first of all, you can't ride your horse every day. And secondly, it's expensive because there aren't really a lot of fields you can just turn your horse out into. So it has to be stables, and stables are always expensive, and hay is expensive, and hard feed is expensive, and shoeing is expensive because when you're riding in town, your horse has to have shoes because roads aren't good for shoeless horses. All right, well, so Hazel was sharing my horse, and then one day, shortly after the Brexit vote, I saw a Facebook post from her, and it ran something like, "Well, thank you, old people. You've ruined my life with your selfishness. You'll be dead soon, so you don't care about the future. And you've ruined my life, and just because you wanted Brexit for your own selfish purposes." It was never specified how selfish these purposes were, because if old people were going to die soon, then it wouldn't make any difference to them, Brexit or not, would it? If they thought Brexit was a disaster, they would have voted for it, or remaining was a disaster, they would have voted for it simply because it didn't matter to them what happened in the future. But it did. We wanted to hand a country back to our children, not some anti-democratic, bureaucratic European porridge. So when I saw that little piece on her Facebook page, I wrote to her saying, is this really what you think of me? Because I of course was in that generation that was supposed to have voted for Brexit. As a matter of fact, it wasn't so cut and dried, but that was the wisdom at the time. And I said, that's not very nice, and it's wrong. Needless to say, she wasn't sharing my horse after that. But the thing is that here we have a lot of older people. You'll find them all over YouTube, and not so much BitChute and Minds, because BitChute and Minds tend not to be so many older people. I sooner or later they will be, as YouTube disappears up its own fundament. But at the moment, you're seeing lots of older people on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube saying there shouldn't be any more shutdowns. We know it's dangerous for us as older people, but we want to hand a future to our children and our grandchildren, and this should stop. So here we have a real difference between older people who are actually wishing to make a better life for their children against the way those children were looking at things a few years ago, telling older people that they were selfish. Well, you tell me, Hazel, who are the most selfish now? This is a matter of life and death to me. It's not a matter of political game playing. If I catch COVID, I'll probably die, and especially with all the allergies I have, I'm in a weak position to start with. And yet I'm saying I want to hand a future to my grandchildren. and I'm prepared to face the awful consequences. I just want you to remember that, Hazel, and all the people that surround you, all those sophisticated people who thought, well, old people are going to die and Brexit was their, I don't know what, a parting shot. I've no idea what she thought. All right, well, that's it. And I want you to all remember the terrible fix I'm in with no camembert. And there's probably, I'm quite sure, Tesco's is going to be full of people buying up the last of the French cheeses. I'm not going to bother. And because the reason is we're going to have plenty of turkey. A few months ago, I ordered, well, about 2 months ago, I ordered a turkey from an organic farm. They rely on people ordering ahead. So there's no way I can pull out of that now, even if I wanted to. It wouldn't be nice to them. They depend on this for their yearly income. So we've got this £16 turkey turning up and probably very few family, much less or even none. I'm not even sure what's going on now. Anyway, we're going to have plenty of turkey, so that'll make up for the camembert. I just need some recipes because, turkey sandwiches and turkey curry do tend to get a little bit wearisome after a while, but the dog is certainly going to benefit. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.